So there are some other types of specimens and tests that you'll be involved in that have nothing to do with blood. So we wanted to let you know about those as well. Urine specimens, you collect urine um, because it provides a valuable snapshot of the inner workings of the body. Collect urine contains excess salts, waste products, and small amount of molecules that circulate in the bloodstream. The different types of urine specimens. A random specimen can be collected anytime. It can be used to screen for different metabolic issues, and it measures protein, glucose, blood, and other different constituents of urine. Protein, if you have protein in your urine, you may have kidney disease. If you have glucose in your urine, you may have diabetes. If you have blood in your urine, you may have a urinary tract infection or a bladder infection. These are actually pretty normal tests that will be run. The first morning specimen is 8-hour specimen. It's collected immediately after the patient awakens, and it's concentrated so it ensures the detection of specific chemicals or pathogens that maybe not be found in a random sample. Since random samples can be taken anytime during the day, they can be way more dilute depending on what you've drank or ate during the day. So the first morning specimen obviously is going to be thicker and more concentrated. A time specimen is collected over 24 hours and combined to provide a single large specimen used to measure the amounts of protein, creatinine, and hormones. This will also tell you how your kidneys are functioning for the most part, and then other hormones. Different collection procedures. There's a midstream clean catch. It's collected after the patient has passed several milliliters of urine. So the patient will start urinating, stop, and then the urine will be caught after the stream is stopped once. This allows microorganisms from the urethra to be flushed out and not collected in the sample. The pediatric collection, it's for a routine urinalysis and can be collected using a soft, clear plastic bag with an adhesive that fits over the genital area of the child. A catheter collection is something that they're actually going to catheterize you for, or the patient for. It's collected from, the catheter is inserted by a physician, nurse, or medical assistant, and it's inserted through the urethra into the bladder. And then there's the suprapubic aspiration, which is actually has a needle that's inserted through the abdominal wall into the bladder. So it's a lot more invasive. This is just some of the things I just talked about. So you'll also be dealing with fecal specimens or feces. We collect fecal specimens to look for intestinal infections and to screen for cancer. You can do a random specimen at any point during the day, used for most determinations, including bacteria cultures, O&P, and fats and fibers. There's an occult blood specimen that's collected after 3 days of a meat-free diet. Patients are instructed to avoid aspirin and vitamin C since they can interfere with test results. There is also a 72-hour stool specimen, which is used for quantitative fat determination. The collection procedure, you have an appropriate container, which usually resembles a kind of a gallon-sized paint can, and are wax-coated or cardboard. It has to be tightly sealed and wrapped in a plastic bag. It also must be kept at room temperature. It cannot be refrigerated. And you do not use the toilet for collection because there are other bacteria in the toilet that have nothing to do with what's in the feces. The semen collection is used to determine whether viable sperm are present in the semen, either for fertility testing or to access the success of a vasectomy. It's also collected as a forensic specimen for any sort of rape victim. The collection procedures. Patients are instructed not to ejaculate for 3 days before the collection. They're collected in a sterile plastic container. You can't collect it. You can't take a specimen out of a condom. The time must be recorded because sperm are very sensitive and they die quickly. So they have to be able to do the analysis from a certain period from the time the sperm was collected. And they have to be kept as close to body temperature, delivered directly to the lab within 30 minutes, or the sperm could die that quick. Throat specimens. It's obviously used to diagnose some sort of throat infection. Used to determine whether infection is caused by group A Streptococcus bacteria, which would require antibiotics. And then a diagnosis is performed with a standard bacterial culture or rapid strep test. If you are asked to do any of these things, wherever you work will train you on these to do these types of tests. Then the collection procedures for a throat specimen. You're going to depress the tongue with a tongue depressor and inspect the throat. Touch the tip of the swab to the tonsils and any other inflamed area. Return the swab to a holder and label the sample to be delivered to the laboratory. And here's the throat. Throat is swabbed in the area of the tonsils. The nasopharyngeal specimen, or like nose nasal passage specimen. It's used to diagnose whooping cough, croup, pneumonia, RSV, and other upper respiratory tract infections. The nasal passages and pharynx host a lot of different types of infectious organisms, especially in children. So you'll see this NP or nasopharyngeal specimen done a lot on kids. The collection procedure, you're going to collect using a cotton or Dacron tipped sterile wire. It's passed through the nostril to reach the back of the nasopharynx. It's not a fun test, but it's accurate, so that's why they do it. You're going to rotate to collect a mucus sample and then remove it. The swab is going to be placed in a container, which is going to be sealed, depending on the type of testing. And this is the way it looks. It's not fun, but it's effective. So there's sweat electrolyte or chloride specimen. Sweat electrolytes are salts present in normal sweat, and they're collected to diagnose cystic fibrosis, which is a lung disease. The collection procedures, it's collected on a piece of sterile filter paper, which is weighed and analyzed for the amount of salt, and it's subjected to the iontophoretic pilocarpine test. I have such a hard time saying that. A body fluid specimen. These are always performed by a physician. Cerebrospinal fluid specimens. This is another painful one. Collected to diagnose meningitis or other central nervous system infections. It's collected by a spinal tap or a needle going into your spine to collect fluid, where a needle is inserted between the vertebrae at the base of the spine, and a syringe is used to withdraw the fluid. And this is what it looks like. The amniotic fluid specimen, it's collected to analyze fetal cells for the presence of genetic disorders such as Down syndrome. You want to analyze it in the third trimester, so you're analyzing lipids that indicate the degree of development of the fetus's lungs. Bilirubin can also be determined at that stage to test for hemolytic diseases or blood diseases. And fluid can also be tested for proteins associated with other abnormalities such as spina bifida. So this test has a lot of purposes for unborn babies. The collection procedure, it's always collected by a physician in an amniocentesis. The amniotic fluid is removed by a needle inserted through the mother's abdominal wall into the amniotic sac. And then the fluid is transferred into a sterile container protected from the light and is immediately transferred to the lab. You don't want to have to do this twice, so you want to immediately transport it and analyze it. And here's just another a way that they collect it. You can see it going through the abdominal wall into the amniotic sac and taken out of that area.